Blog Talk Radio.
Viatorian Voices conversations on the way. You know that over our 24 or so conversations we've had, we kind of jump around a little bit. We have been in different parts of the country. We have talked to people at various levels of involvement in the Viatorian community, and we've done group interviews, we've done individual, and today we're going to take a look at parish life, specifically for St. George Parish in Bourbonnais, Illinois. And I'm going to get a little information to share with you as we find out about the role of the Viatorian Associates in that parish. Hi, everyone. This is Jim Mitchell, and pleased to welcome today a gentleman who, well, in fact, Curtis, as I introduced you here, I realized in our prep here I didn't even get all the information. I want to make sure I'm saying your name correctly. Is it Saindon? Is that the right way to pronounce the last name?
Yep, Saindon is fine, yep.
Saindon, okay, who has been a Viatorian Associate for a little over 5 years now. We're going to learn a little bit about his role. So, first of all, Curtis, before we learn about you, tell me a little bit about St. George Parish.
Well, thanks for having me. St. George is a rural parish located about 5-6 miles outside of Bourbonnais, Illinois. It grew as a country farm parish from a small French-Canadian community back in the 1800s. It has maintained its rural feel. St. George is a town, but there are probably only about, maybe 100 people in the town and a little over a dozen to 15 houses. So it doesn't even have its own post office or grocery store or gas station or anything like that. It has about a little over 400 families now. We've grown fairly significantly in the last decade, and have always been supported by the Viatorians since its founding in the mid-1800s. So,
and as you talk about being a rural community, are there still a lot of active agricultural families down there, or has it evolved?
Absolutely. I would say in the beginning it was probably 90+% farmers and rural folks. It's probably more about 50-50 now as Bourbonnais has kind of grown out to the west and the north. We have handfuls of suburbanites, if you want to call them that, people living in subdivisions. I live in a subdivision, but probably half of the families are still living on farms. Most of them are actively farming or involved in farm-related industries. So, yeah, there's still a significant farming and agricultural presence in the parish.
And you talked about the founding of the parish and its years and years of serving the community down there. Is there a certain style or a culture that you could sort of describe the parish in terms of what the community feel is like for the parishioners?
Being a relatively small rural parish, it's very close-knit. Almost all of the families know each other by name, especially as a large percentage of those families are actively going to church, sending their kids to the religious ed program, involved in the different fundraisers and activities that we have. And I think one of the things that kind of amazes some of the other associates and parish priests that are in the suburban parishes is how much a little rural parish like us can get done, both in terms of activities and outreach and fundraising. We've got an extremely generous, parish community that is not only willing to step up and help out our parish, but also the greater Kankakee area and those that are in need in our community. So it's definitely a small, close-knit family.
And when you talk about the community down there, you're involved in educational leadership. Tell us a little bit of what your professional life is like.
Yeah, well, I started out of college as a teacher, went into accounting for a while in the private sector, and then came back to education. And for the last 25 years, I've been chief school business official, assistant superintendent for business services at a couple of different school districts. I'm currently actually working up in DuPage County at Woodridge School District 68. I've been at districts in Will County and Kankakee County in the past, kind of overseeing all of the non-educational areas of service, food service, transportation, buildings and grounds, construction, things like that. for a public school district. So.
Interesting. Now, I want to talk about the other aspect of your life, which is your involvement in the Viatorian community. Tell us a little bit about your initial introduction to the Viatorians.
Well, interestingly enough, I was born and raised in a small little farm town about 30 miles southeast of Kankakee called Beaverville, Illinois, and that was for years and years and years staffed by the Viatorians, St. Mary's in Beaverville, Illinois. And so I grew up in a Viatorian parish, didn't really necessarily understood what that meant, came up to Kankakee and was primarily involved in St. Pat's in Kankakee, which is a Viatorian parish. Went away, went to college, and came back, and my wife had grown up in St. George, and her family still goes there and went there. And so we became involved in St. George. So I've really been involved in Viatorian parishes my whole life, not necessarily realizing what that meant until probably 10, 15 years ago, shortly before Father Dan Belanger came to our parish. Father Ken Yarno was there and started talking more about what the Viatorian order does and stands for and represents, and really started to get an understanding of what the Viatorian community was all about, and the fact that there were even lay people, associates, that could kind of become more involved in the Viatorian order and the mission and all that. And then when Father Dan came in, he really kind of continued to talk to my wife and I about that, and we eventually went through the associate formation process and became associates. So,
what was that discernment process like for you? What were you looking for, and were there certain things about becoming an associate that appealed to you and your wife, and said this is something that kind of fulfills something for us?
Well, at the time, my wife grew up in a Viatorian parish as well, St. George, her whole life, and I don't know that we really fully understood what it meant to be a Viatorian associate. We just thought it was maybe a next step or an extension in what we were already doing at the parish, which included volunteering, helping with different parish activities and parish fundraisers. Again, at the time, not really understanding the charism and the mission and the greater purpose of the Viatorian order as a whole. We knew that kind of the headquarters for the Viatorians in our area was up in Arlington Heights. Didn't really understand what that all meant, and so in going through kind of the formation process, we really were able to get a better understanding of the Viatorian order as a whole and how the associates fit into that framework for the Viatorians. And it's been really interesting. I don't know that it dramatically changed what we did in the parish or what we do and did in the community, as much as our understanding of how the Viatorians tie into that and how being part of that group has been very fulfilling and beneficial for us over the last, 10 plus years.
Interesting perspective from Curt Saindon today on Viatorian Voices. We're learning about parish life down at St. George Parish, and Curt's taken some time to share some thoughts with us. We were also going to talk to Julie Lampley, who is a Viatorian associate, and unfortunately she had a death in the family very close to her over the weekend, so we send our condolences to Julie and ask everyone to pray for her and her family at this time. But we thank Curtis for being here as we continue our conversation. And am I correct, Curtis, now that St. George is staffed by just one priest?
Yeah, and because we've been a smaller parish, we've always been staffed by one priest, I think, over the years. Some of the larger parishes in town, St. Pat's Maternity, have had and or have now multiple priests because they're a lot larger parishes. But yeah, and actually for a while, we were in between priests until Father Dan came to us, and we had a deacon there that helped handle some of the day-to-day activities, but it really was put on some of the parishioners and the leadership in the parish to kind of help run things along as Father Pagini from Maternity at the time agreed to be our canonical priest and kind of oversee things, but we were kind of on our own for a little bit until Father Dan was able to come to us after his assignment in Belize. So,
yeah, and that's one of the interesting things about the Viatorians is the various experiences that the priests and brothers have, and I'm sure he brings a unique perspective coming to a rural community from Belize. But what about your role as an associate? Is there place for you in the parish leadership? Are there things that they lean on you and your wife to help with?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, again, it's a relatively small parish. I mean, we have grown to 400 families. There are a lot of the families are getting older. A lot of the parishioners are getting older, and so some of the middle-aged and younger folks, they certainly try to tap into for support on the parish council. I know Julie's on the parish council, and we've had other Viatorian associates on the parish council. I'm on the finance committee. I'm also the treasurer for our building fund, help with a couple of the major Holy Name Society Men's Club fundraisers during the year. We have one coming up this weekend in our annual Summerfest. We have one in the wintertime. It's our Stag and Fish Fry that are major fundraisers. And I've been involved in all of those things pretty much since I got to St. George and started, my life as a parishioner there when I met my wife back 25 years ago. So. And
what's the I don't know if I phrased this correctly, but having your wife as an associate as well, do you find that you guys are able to do things together in the parish? You each have separate roles, and is there a sort of a support system between the two of you to share ideas and thoughts as you go through different experiences?
I think definitely going through the formation process and being associates together has been helpful both for us to ask questions to each other and of each other and to help get the most out of being an associate. I don't know that it's changed dramatically what we volunteered in or things that we do in the parish. And we do some stuff together, but we do some stuff separately as well. I'm real involved in a community project called Fortitude Outreach, which is a homeless shelter that's kind of separate from the parish. But I think that our going through the association process together has really helped us feel a part of the Viatorian community. And we've grown and learned together in what the Viatorians are all about and what kind of missions and things they really are supportive of. So.
And before I let you go, a minute or so left here, but I was really intrigued at the very beginning. In talking about St. George, you said the parish has grown. Not only has the parish grown, but I think I've got here in quotes. I was taking notes. You get things done. Whether it's fundraising or other things. What do you attribute that to in terms of the success for an established parish like yours? What is it that keeps attracting people and keeps them involved?
Well, I think it's a combination of things. I mean, I think a lot of credit goes to Father Dan. If you've met him before or know him, his charismatic personality, his boundless energy have attracted a lot of young parishioners, which is great. Unfortunately, some of it has happened through some consolidation of parishes in our community where we've lost some churches and folks are looking for a place to go. And I do think that it's a very welcoming place. It's got a nice, small, friendly, cozy feel. New people are very welcome. And I just think that that combination of things and offering things to attract young families has really helped breathe some life into the parish.
And just quickly then, I mentioned at the beginning that there are parishes, as you said here, are schools in Arlington Heights, parishes in different parts of the country, Las Vegas. We talk to people from all over. If someone is hearing this and wants to know more about being an associate, no matter where they are, what would you say? I mean, what's your suggestion in terms of the benefits and the reasons to pursue perhaps becoming an associate?
We have associates that don't belong to any of these parishes specifically because they've moved out of the area since they became associates. I would say definitely reflect on it. Talk to a local priest. If you have any connections with the Viatorians, talk to Brother John Eustace and Dan Masterton that are kind of going through the process and helping get the word out that we are out here and about what we're doing. It's really a fulfilling, rewarding, and amazing group of people that are very welcoming and give you an opportunity to kind of do a little more and go a little further than just a typical traditional going to church on Sunday and getting involved in a couple things in your parish. There's so much more that can be gotten from it.
Well, Curt Saindon, thanks so much for joining us today. Great conversation and a great example of the Viatorian community where, of course, everyone in that community proclaims Jesus Christ and his gospel and raises communities where faith is lived, deepened, and celebrated. That includes St. George Parish, a Viatorian-led parish in Bourbonnais, Illinois, in the Diocese of Joliet. The Viatorians have ministered there since 1898. Find out more. Visit stgeorgeillinois.com. That's stgeorgeil.com. On behalf of the Viatorians, I'm Jim Mitchell. Thanks very much for listening.